Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Brown. I'm a career test pilot, and I've had the privilege and honor to fly both the F-117 and F-22 Lockheed's stealth fighters. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what is stealth. I'm going to bring up my screen here. And there we go. Okay, stealth. Well, Merriam-Webster's dictionary says that stealth is a cautious, unobtrusive, and secretive way of moving or proceeding intended to avoid detection. So why would we have stealth to begin with? Well, one is to survive. I know I'm not the biggest, baddest guy out there, so I'll hide while I do what I need to do. Or to kill. Hey, I'm hungry and I want to eat. So, you think this guy needs stealth? No, he's the biggest, baddest dude out there. And, I mean, he can even chase away the #1 predator in the Serengeti by just his size and his strength. Well, nature uses stealth. And natural camouflage in the animal kingdom is common. Here's an owl sitting in the crook of a tree. Here's this cat. He wants to eat. And he's on the hunt, so he's sneaking around, stealthy, very quiet, very slow, very methodical. How about this guy on the ocean floor? Can you see him down there? He's stealthy, waiting for something to swim by so he can snag some lunch. Even not just in the visual area, in sound as well. Owls have little tiny micro feathers on the end of their big feathers that quiet the airflow to make them very quiet so the prey cannot hear them swooping in for the kill. How about this guy? He's an insect. There's his head, his legs, and also you need to know your enemy. You know, if you are trying to defend yourself against a high order predator, you need to know what that predator can do or what your adversary can do. So a lone zebra here looks pretty obvious, doesn't it? Just black and white stripes against the green grass. Well, here's his enemy. This guy is the one that he's trying to defend against, but we know some things about this guy, right? He's colorblind. He can only see in black and white. Also, he needs to identify one single target so that he can plan his attack. So, our single zebra standing by himself, black and white standing out, how about this? It's totally confusing to the predator that the zebra is defending against. And I've actually seen this myself in the Serengeti, where you cannot even count the number of zebras that are there. Now, for military aspects, stealth has to do with what you're using to find the adversary or the other individual. What you see here is some visual camouflage. Then if we change that camouflage and we look at it for night vision systems or thermally using infrared, you can see where one guy really stands out and the other one is still hidden. So you need to know what the enemy is using to try to find you. What about if you live in total darkness? You know, you got that little light there. Hey, what's this light? Oh my goodness, it's attached to a predatory fish, and he's using that little light as a lure in order to get folks close enough to where he can have a nice little meal and they wouldn't see him in the dark. Part of the art of stealth is looking like your background. This is a ship that Lockheed built called the Sea Shadow, and it was a stealth ship. They didn't buy any more than just this one as a test vehicle. But when they first tested it, if you look in the upper left, you can see a blank spot in the radar screen. The ocean itself has a bit of a radar return. So what they found was they could track the ship by seeing where there was no sea reflection. So they actually had to put some stuff on the ship to make it a little noisier, make it a little less stealthy so it looked like the ocean and would blend in. Now, why would we have stealth on airplanes? Well, to survive, right? Missiles are very, very dangerous. They're getting very effective, and I think I'm going to just hide from them so they can't find me. Another thing is to kill, right? They won't see me coming, so I can do my job, and my job is to go in there and break stuff in bad guy land. So what about stealth airplanes? Here's some basic radar theory that you need to know to understand stealth. On the right, we have the bad guy radar. He sends out an electromagnetic pulse, a pulse of energy, and it hits the good guy airplane. And when that energy is reflected back to the radar that sent it out, there's a blip on the screen. Now, what we do with a stealth airplane is we shape the airplane such that when that energy from the bad guy radar hits the airplane, it doesn't return back to the emitting radar. It is bounced up into space or away from it somewhere like that. So if there's no return echo, the bad guy radar can't see the airplane. So what we do is we measure the echo that is emitted by the airplane. So we take a radar, we know exactly how much power it puts out, we bounce it off the airplane, and we measure how strong the power is that is received back, the echo. And we also turn the airplane around so that we measure all the different angles around the airplane where the reflection is strong and where it's weak. So here's an example. If you can see inside here, we call this a fuzzball, all right? The length of these spikes from the center is the strength of the radar reflection coming off that airplane. Now, I've put in here a silhouette of an F-15. You can see it kind of buried inside those spikes. Trust me, this is not the radar cross-section or radar return of an F-15. This is actually the radar return of a Jeep Cherokee. We put it in the modeling software, and this is what came out. But if you notice, out the front and out the back and out the left and out the right are very strong radar reflections. And there's a continuum of radar reflections all the way around it. So a radar has a certain sensitivity. There's internal noise, the electricity that's used to power the thing. Each little transistor or vacuum tube or whatever has noise in it. So the radar return has to have a certain strength for the radar itself to be able to figure out, oh, this is another airplane and I need to put a blip on the scope. All right, so I've kind of put this circle in the middle where I call it radar sensitivity. So any of those spikes that are longer, that irradiate further outside that circle, are strong enough for the radar to see and determine that that is an echo and display it on the screen. Now, if we take an airplane and we make a stealth shape out of it, if you can see in the middle, I've got something resembling the F-117. Again, this is the same Jeep Cherokee, but we put flat sides on it, made it kind of look like an F-117 or look like that sea shadow. And what it did was controlled the radar reflections. Now, if you notice where on the previous slide, see all the hundreds of spikes coming off the airplane. In this one, it focuses those spikes into distinct countable ones. I don't know, I haven't counted, probably there's 10 or 11 there. And only those 10 or 11 spikes stick outside the circle that is what we consider the sensitivity of the radar. And very importantly, notice that there aren't any spikes out the front or out the back. So they can't see me coming, nor can they see me after I've done my job and I'm headed home. Now, when we know where these spikes are, and we know where the enemy radars are, if we don't point a spike at the enemy radar, for all intents and purposes, we're invisible. So if you look at the F-117, it's got all of those shapes, those flat sides on the airplane that are designed to reflect the radar energy away from the enemy's radar. Now, the reason the F-117 has just a finite number of flat sides has to do with the computing power that was available when the airplane was designed. It's easier to model a finite number of flat surfaces than it is to model a curve, which is essentially an infinite number of surfaces. As computer technology has improved, we're able to make airplanes that look more like airplanes and are a little more kind to the air than the F-117. So here's the front view. There's the bottom of the airplane. Notice it's very flat and it's designed to reflect that radar energy away from the enemy radar. Here's the back of the airplane. Something very important to notice is you can't see the exhaust of the engine. The exhaust is hidden, so for heat-seeking missiles and ground detection using infrared equipment. So the airplane is stealthy not only for radar, but infrared as well. And here's the front of the airplane. This area down at the bottom, you can see kind of a globe inside of it and it's shaped like home plate. That is the infrared acquisition and detection system. And it's an infrared system that sits behind that screen, and that screen is also designed to keep radar energy away. Also notice the sawtooth linings to the canopy and the screen itself. Again, we're reflecting that radar energy away from the adversary. Now, what about this beautiful airplane? Nice and smooth and very sleek, very aerodynamic. It utilizes the same principles. This is the F-22, and there's the leading edge of the canopy, leading edge of the intake. There's the trailing edge of the canopy, leading edge of the wing, horizontal tail. Now you're starting to see a system of parallel lines, again, that are designed to reflect the radar energy away from the airplane. There's the wingtip. Now here's the front of the airplane, and you can see the same principles apply if you look at the intakes, the fuselage nose, the vertical tails, etc. So we're controlling our radar reflection. That's the science of stealth. It's short and simple, but trust me, it's a very complex science when you get into it. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Jim Brown, thank you for being here today. Would you introduce yourself, please, to our junior test pilots?
Hi, gang. My name's Jim Brown. I'm a test pilot. I tested fighter airplanes, mainly the F-15, the F-117, F-16, and the F-22. How do you want to do this? Both of them, fighter guys don't think the F-117 is very maneuverable, but it actually was. It performed better than say the P-51, the F-86, the earlier fighters. The big problem was the shape of the wings. It's got that really swept wing, and that makes it, when you maneuver hard, that makes a lot of drag, and the drag is what you need big engines to overcome. And it could make one really good, very maneuverable turn, but then it was out of airspeed, and you had to spend some time speeding back up. Whereas the F-22, big monster engines, and it could continue to maneuver until you ran out of gas. I saw a hand up. No hands? Okay. So you talked about the shape of the wings and all of that stuff. That's very important. When you're maneuvering the airplane, when fighter guys are talking about this, you're talking about G-force as well. And that's basically how strong somebody just put up a picture of the F-117. How strong the wings are on the airplane. Some airplanes, like an airliner, they can only go to about 3 times the force of gravity, or 3 Gs, before things start bending and breaking. Whereas the The F-117 was designed for 7 Gs and the F-22 for 9 Gs. To show you how strong the wings on the F-22 are, y'all know that, the semi-tractor trailer trucks on the highway. You could stack 7 semi-tractor trailer trucks absolutely full on top of an F-117 and the wings would hold it.
All right, and Nicole wanted to know, what are the biggest airplanes you have flown?
The biggest airplane I've actually flown is probably the C-141. It was an Air Force cargo plane, or the KC-135. They're probably the biggest. I've flown the 747 simulator. And I've got, 1,200 hours of flying the 737 airliner. Those are the big ones.
So you've flown these heavy jets, and then you've flown the most maneuverable fighter jet on the planet. What does it feel like? What are you, our students this week learned a lot about controls and how you have paying attention to the controls and what they mean and how you control an airplane.
The big airplanes fly like big airplanes. They're not that maneuverable and agile, and when you have to move the controls a lot, there's a lot of force. Some of that force is there to keep you from maneuvering it too much, so you wouldn't break the airplane. And it's a subconscious thing. If an airplane, when you get in it and you fly it and it's kind of slow and doesn't maneuver very well, you learn very quickly to slow down yourself, slow down your thinking, and you fly it not as aggressively as you would as an airplane that's extremely maneuverable. I got to tell you, the F-22, when I first flew it, my very first flight, I taxied out to the runway, and it taxied like a truck. It felt like an old lady. It was creaking and groaning and making these noises, and I'm going, is this really a fighter? But I got to tell you, the second the airplane went into the air, it was very nimble, very maneuverable, and you go, yeah, baby, this is it.
I have a question from Sunand. Sunand, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. Are you a pilot or a test pilot?
I'm a test pilot, which is a specific type of pilot. So all test pilots are pilots, but not all pilots are test pilots. Does that make sense? It's special education and training.
So,
Yeah.
Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about why a test pilot and what type of training a test pilot gets and why?
Sure. The difference between a test pilot and an ordinary, let's call them ordinary pilot, is that test pilots have been trained in the engineering of the airplanes. We have special classes on how you build the airplanes, the structure, how strong they are, the science and the physics of why an airplane does what it does. Whereas normal pilots, they have an idea of the physics and stuff, but they're not down into the math and the engineering part of it. Also, a very important part of test pilots is the ability to bring back information, the ability to report on what you found. You go up and you do a test, and you find something wrong with the airplane. Well, if you don't tell anybody about it, the airplane will never get fixed. So it's the ability to observe what's going on and bring back the information. Okay, Sinan?
That's a good thing. Okay, so Sophie Nguyen, she wanted to know, has the F-117 ever broken the sound barrier?
Sophie, no, and that's a very good question. The F-117, the maximum allowed speed, the one in the book said pilots don't go faster, is 9/10 the speed of sound. If you do the math, the airplane just doesn't have the thrust. It's not a very smooth looking airplane. It's got those flat sides on it, so it doesn't go through the air as smooth as others do, and you just cannot get it to go supersonic. If you did get it to go supersonic, you'll see those four little things sticking out the front. Those are the pitot booms. They tell the airplane everything it needs to know as far as how fast it is, how high it is, and very importantly, it tells the flight controls which direction to go where and all of that stuff. If you went supersonic, you'd have a shock wave on the tip of that pitot boom, and that would make that information poor, invalid, and the airplane would go out of control.
Do you all remember when Danny and Miss Lana talked about the SR-71 and the A-12, how the sensors are on the nose? So that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Brown, that is how all airplanes work, correct? The sensors are on the nose and they detect speed, temperature, altitude, and they affect, correct?
Yes, let's not say on the nose, but in the front anyway.
Okay. So does anybody think this is a funny looking airplane? No? Yes? It is. It was one of the first stealthy bombers, right?
It has 90-degree angles so we can reflect radar in a different way.
Exactly. And here's a fun fact. So a lot of the fighter pilots would fly this airplane, so they called it a fighter, but it actually didn't have the weaponry that would make it a fighter, but it handled like a fighter, right, JB?
Yep. The reason it's called a fighter had to do with a treaty we have with the Russians, and it limited us to a number of bombers, and we couldn't call it a bomber because then we'd have too many and that would break the treaty, so we called it a fighter.
Cody, did you have a question?
It went subsonic because one reason is the sonic boom would give away its position, and it's also it's most it also flies not as fast as speed of sound because it is actually slow. Yes.
Another reason is, have you ever seen the Invisible Man run? He doesn't need to. He can walk in, do what he needs to do, and walk out.
So that's what we were talking about, our reconnaissance planes, our spy planes that are at Blackbird Air Park. The SR-71 flew so high and so fast, and it was designed to be stealthy, but it wasn't truly completely stealthy, but it didn't need to be because it was so high and so fast. All right, we have more questions. Dean Farmer wanted to know, have you ever gone past Mach 1?
Yes. When I was flying the F-22, we used to fly around faster than Mach 1 all the time. It was very routine, and you really couldn't tell you're going faster than the speed of sound unless you looked at the airspeed indicator. The fastest I've been has been 2.2 times the speed of sound.
All right, so Cody had the question. I read that you did a lot of emergency landing while testing at the F-22. Did you ever have to activate your ejector seat?
No. Very luckily, the emergencies I had, the problems I had airborne were such that I was able to bring the airplane home and land. Thought about it once. One other pretty bad emergency, I was ready. If one more thing had gone wrong, I was going to have to eject, and I was ready to go. I'd already made the decision that if this happens, I'm pulling the handle. I'm not going to wait. But it didn't happen, so I was able to land.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the physics of when you eject and what happens to a human body when it ejects into
Sure. first of all, you guys got to realize that ejection is not a fun thing. You have one choice, one choice, and that is either to eject or die, right? We don't want to die, so then you eject. But ejection is quite a violent thing when it happens, because there's explosions and rockets, sometimes shattered pieces of the canopy flying around. So most of the time, people are injured in some way, shape, or form when they eject. So let's go through the sequence. Okay, you make the decision. All right, I'm going to eject. So you pull a handle or whatever activation mechanism there is. That starts a chain of events. And the first thing is you got to get rid of the canopy, right? You can't stay inside the airplane. So a lot of airplanes, the canopy itself flies off of the airplane. Some airplanes, they have explosive lines up in the canopy that shatters the canopy, so it's out of the way. Other ejection seats just have a knife on the top, and the knife gets to the canopy before your head does, and it breaks the canopy and you go through. So different techniques there. So we got to get rid of that glass that's over our head, right? While that's happening, there's some other things that happen. Some airplanes, the shoulder harness will pull you back into the seat. Some airplanes will have things that will capture your arms and legs, because once you're up in the wind, you know, you're inside the airplane, you're not feeling any wind. And the second you eject, you could have 300-400 miles an hour of wind in your face, which would cause arms and legs to, you know, wiggle around. You've all stuck your hands outside the window of a car, right? And you felt it moving your hand around. Well, that type of stuff. So there's some stuff that's done to trap the body into the seat so you don't get injured. And then there's either an explosive charge or a rocket motor that lights off, and that's what sends the seat out of the airplane. It's on some rails, so it's guided out. And once you get outside the airplane, now we got to worry about getting a parachute, don't we? Some seats you will come out of the ejection seat itself. The lap belt, the shoulder harness, and the seat belt will automatically disconnect, and it'll push you away from the seat. Other airplanes, you'll stay in the seat for a while. As the seat slows down, you go into lower altitude. But at some point in time, you got to get away from the seat, and then the parachute will open. Almost all of them have an automatic opening somewhere around 13,000 feet. So if you're above 13,000 feet, you do the parachute thing, and when you get to 13,000, the parachute opens. If you're below 13,000, when you eject, the parachute will come out right away. And almost all ejection seats assume that when you pull a handle, at that point, you're unconscious. So all of this other stuff happens automatically. So typically, if let's say we're below 13,000 feet, you should be able to, after a few seconds, have a parachute over your head and look down, and you'll have a survival kit hanging underneath you. Below that, an inflated life raft hanging down there below that. And then it's just a matter of parachuting down and hoping you don't break a leg or something when you hit the ground. Things very, very secret.
All right. Kaylee, do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to? I'm going to try and navigate.
Yeah, I'll ask my question.
Okay.
Hi, Kaylee.
What did you learn in school that helped you the most while flying planes?
Math and the magic number 6. Yeah, it seems a little weird. What's magic about 6? Well, there's 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. When you're navigating, there's 60 minutes in 1 degree of latitude or longitude. So you do a lot of multiplying and dividing by 6.
All right. Andrew is on the call, but I think he would like for me to ask the question. Unless, Andrew, you'd like to pop in, you can. So Andrew sent in the question, what subjects do you advise to take?
Math and science, I think, in its own right, aviation is a scientific endeavor. How the airplanes are put together, how they operate, how they fly, that's all math and science.
But I distinctly recall taking you to University of California at Santa Barbara and you giving a talk to the students I was working with there about the importance of writing.
That's true. If you don't know the math and science, you don't have anything to write about.
Good points, but how important it is. Why don't you talk to the kids about how much of your day you spend writing?
I spend a lot of my day writing, and I'm not saying that the importance of communication is not very high, but you could go to art class and not learn anything on why or how an airplane flies or how to fly it. That's my point. Now,
I know. I'm just saying.
You be able to communicate, and writing is a very important part of communication. And it's not using the LOL, ROFL type of abbreviations that you do online. You got to enunciate.
I know. I just wanted to emphasize that the writing skills are very important. I know that Austin was talking about how 1% of his job is a blast, and then 99% of his job is a lot of work and a lot of reading and a lot of writing. Yeah. So we have some more questions. Mayon wanted to know, were there any jobs you wanted to do before you decided to be a test pilot?
When I was a little guy, I wanted to be a garbage man. Because I'd see them around the neighborhood. They'd be hanging on the outside of the truck and riding around hanging on the truck. I thought that'd be kind of fun to do. But I decided, no, I think flying airplanes is pretty much the only thing I've ever wanted to do. I wanted to be an astronaut. And how do you become an astronaut? Well, you got to be a pilot, test pilot. You got to work your way down that road. And so that's kind of the way I pointed myself.
And we're having some questions come in from Nicole. She wants to know, what did you study in school to fly airplanes?
Nicole, I studied engineering in school. I was a civil engineer in college, which is building bridges and roads and water systems and things like that. We go, well, what does that have to do with flying airplanes? Well, if you think about it, the wings of an airplane are very much like a bridge, right? They got to hold up so much weight and put up with the forces and things like that. So there's a good crossover. Now, you don't have to study engineering to be a pilot. You do have to study engineering to be a test pilot, but to fly airplanes, you don't need engineering at all. So you can study anything you like. I think the important thing is stay in school and get your education. That's the important thing.
Anna Collins would like to know, what was your greatest challenge and how did you overcome it?
That is an excellent question. I think my greatest challenge was dealing with people that did not believe in me. They did not think that I had the intelligence, the education, the skill, or whatever it was to meet my goals. And you have to kind of work hard in the face of that and show them that, no, you don't know me, you don't know my goals, and I'm going to prove different to you. And that was a big challenge. I was very lucky, as my mom and dad always told me that, hey, whatever you put your mind to do, you can get it done. And I believed in that, and it's worked very well.
That has been a common theme from just about everyone that we have spoken to. We have heard stories of being rejected from test pilot school. We've heard stories about being rejected from the astronaut program, and to not give up, to just keep trying to reach your goals. I think that's a really, really important lesson for all of us.
It's very easy for people to say no, and it's a lot harder for them to say yes. And a lot of times you just have to prove it.
All right.